How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. We had us a very lively show yesterday. I really appreciate everybody who came out. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe, join the membership. We have uh, merchandise in our This and That store that you guys can get discounts on from the different tiers of membership that you join. For the rest of you, you can check out our affiliate links to our affiliate products throughout all of our videos that are tagged on our shows. If you click the link and approve the mic, approve the camera from Twitter, YouTube, or TikTok, you will end up being able to jump into the green room where we bring you up onto the screen live, where you'll be able to be seen and heard in real time. For discussions like today's topic, we'll be able to be talking about the civilian rights in a traffic stop. There have some do's and don'ts. There are some things that I'm going to tell you guys that you technically have the right to do, but when you're dealing with a traffic stop, you're going to be dealing with those law enforcement officers that will violate your rights with knowledge, knowing that they can compel you, who does not have knowledge, to do things that you are legally not required to do. So we're going to be getting into that in a second. For those of you that are jumping in from TikTok, I really appreciate you guys for showing up. If you guys want to dive into the conversation, you have the ability to request an invite to come up onto the show and put your information in, your 2 cents in on the topic in real time as well. So we will navigate that, how we can navigate that. We got you coming in from the shorts videos. Really appreciate that. What's that? Mesta Wafta Sheriff? Hey, long names. I'm not good with long names. We'll call you Messi. So let's go ahead and move into the show. So typically we have those do's and don'ts. I know we've been watching a lot of videos, especially you guys been seeing them on TikTok, where people are getting pulled over, they're getting shot at, they're getting their glasses busted out, they're getting pistol whipped on the side of the corner, all because they did not do what they were told to do by the police officer during the traffic stop. There are a lot of different ways that you can go about doing it. You can do it from the I'm going to get paid off the lawsuit behavior, or you can aim for the I know my rights, I'm going to defend them at all costs, and then just try to beat the criminal case. So you have to understand that while there are more extreme ways to go about doing this, there are also more ways to get paid, but it requires you to literally abandon your constitutional rights during a traffic stop while recognizing that your rights are being violated. But you have to document that information in order to put it into a civil action and potentially get some reparations because you gave up on your rights along the way. Now, there's a thin line between standing your ground versus being stupid. So I'm going to point out some things that you can do, some things that you should do, and some things that aren't worth it. So let's go ahead and just march right on through the topic. Now, typically, you're supposed to get pulled over after your vehicle has performed an improper traffic infraction, but sometimes people are profiled, sometimes people are pulled over for irrational reasons, and sometimes your vehicle is not even in motion. Sometimes you're just in the car and they want to be nosy, so they tend to pull up behind you and turn their lights on and then start harassing you while you're in your vehicle. And because they are behind your vehicle while you're in your vehicle, they claim that that is a traffic stop. So first and foremost, if your car was in a park position, especially if your engine wasn't on and your car was in a park position and they pull up on your vehicle, you are not involved in a traffic stop, because a traffic stop requires your car to have been in motion and then be pulled over for a traffic violation, and then or a potential traffic violation, suspect to a traffic violation, and then they would be able to engage you for that particular purpose. Now, if you are sitting in a non-moving vehicle and they're walking up on you for suspicion, you have to understand that the officer's right to remove you from your vehicle from a traffic stop is different from the officer's right to order you out of your vehicle because you are in your vehicle when they are investigating suspicious activity on a property. Law enforcement officers do not reserve the right to give you a lawful order to exit your house In the same way, they do not have the right to give you a lawful order to exit your house unless you were under the arrest. They do not have the lawful order to demand that you exit your vehicle if they are investigating suspicious activity outside of a closed store where you're sitting in a car in a parking lot. It is not a traffic stop. So you have to understand that the first thing that you got to note is that in a traffic stop, when your vehicle was moving and they made you stop moving, that is a traffic stop. In that situation, and only in that situation, when they tell you to get out, you get out. Plain and simple. Now, you can delay getting out, but you have to understand that by delaying getting out, you risk the opportunity to get arrested. You can delay getting out while demanding a supervisor. That is not going to change the police report. The police report is not going to notate that you had been requesting a supervisor. The police report is going to notate that they had told you 5, 10, 20 times to exit the vehicle and you refused to do so. And that will qualify for obstruction of justice and resisting arrest. It's going to be a obstruction of justice / resisting arrest and potentially without violence type charge, which is a broad spectrum charge where you either interfered with their ability to do their investigation or you resisted any type of attempt to be arrested, even though they technically didn't have anything to arrest you for and begin with. The fact that they attempted to unjustly detain you can end up giving you a resisting arrest charge because you resisted detainment, which would impede their ability to do an investigation. So whatever fictitious investigation they will claim in the police report that they were investigating as a result of them pulling up to your vehicle. So from the situation that your car is in a complete stop, when they approach your vehicle, the first thing you have to do is find out what their reasonable articulable suspicion is. You have to find out exactly why they are asking you questions. Why are they coming up to your vehicle? And what the fuck is their problem? Their major malfunction. You got to figure that shit out. Now, once you figure that shit out, that's when you are able to, first and foremost, everybody has their right to remain silent. You don't have to answer any questions. But the problem with not answering any questions is if you ever break that silence, anything that you fail to answer is going to be misrepresented as an admission of guilt. So if you answer some questions but don't answer other questions, the questions that you answer no to are going to offset the questions that you don't answer, which could imply that either yes, you are doing something you got no business doing, or no, you're not being responsible. And in either situation, it could misrepresent in a police report that you refuse to deny guilt and you refuse to confirm innocence based on the way that you didn't answer certain questions. So if you're going to talk back to the officer every time they ask you a question, you must answer that question, that you will not answer any questions. And if you're going to go so far as to say, I only make declarative statements, I don't answer any questions, but I can tell you whatever I need to give you to dispel your reasonable articulable suspicion. So that means that if they come up and their reason for investigating is that suspicious activity in this parking lot, alleged suspicious activity in this parking lot, because you're sitting in a parking lot in the middle of the night eating a sandwich that you got from a local drive-through. I know y'all seen that video where a young man was sitting in the car eating Burger King, I think it was. Cop came up, demanded that he got out of the car. Dude's like, why I'm eating my sandwich? Cop pulls out his gun, starts discharging his firearm at the driver. That is not justifiable behavior. However, had the officer came over to the car and started talking to the man, and the man is like, well, I am here. You're here for suspicious activity. There's nothing suspicious here. I'm sitting off of the main road in my car eating my sandwiches because that's the reason why I pulled over, because it's not supposed to eat and drive. So I'm eating the sandwiches. And then once I finish eating the sandwiches, then I will leave because this is not private property. There are no trespassing signs here. There are no signs that says that any unauthorized users will be towed at the owner's expense. And as a result, I am free to be here until I finish eating my sandwich. And since there are no laws broken, I have dispelled your reasonable articulable suspicion. And beyond that point, they're not required or allowed to identify you. They're going to ask you for your identity to put it into their report so that they can put it into a report that you are being a dick. And then that makes other officers that engage you will see that you have dickish behavior, which means that they're going to come to your car hostile because they know that you're going to be hostile, which leads to bad shit. So you don't want them to get you documented into the system unless they have to. So when you're sitting in a situation where you're minding your own business, you have not broken a law and you are not suspect of a crime, you do not have to give them any more information. Now, outside of that, you got a whole nother ball game of stuff going on. So if you were driving your vehicle, some shit happened, they start pulling your vehicle over. If they tell you get out of the car, you got to get out of the car. But another thing, if you have a firearm and it is a permitted firearm, because these days we are not required to have a permit, the concealed carry permit makes you duty bound to notify law enforcement officers that you are in possession of a firearm and where that firearm is located in your car or on your person. Now, because the beginning of your conversation on a traffic stop is that there is the gun in the vehicle, that puts you in the position that they're going to make you get out of the car. You got no choice in that. You got to get out of the car. But they're not legally allowed to remove the firearm off of your person. Doesn't mean that they won't. They can claim to take your firearm. You must declare that you do not authorize them to take your firearm. And if there is any paperwork that you may have on your person, which should be in or near your driver's license and your vehicle insurance, and all of that information must be collected long before they get to your car window, so that when they start investigating whether or not that firearm belongs to you, you can show them the paperwork that says that firearm belongs to you. Now, I know that that's extreme and unnecessary in some people's opinion, but if in the event that you show them paperwork that says that the gun on my hip is mine, they have no reason to be able to take the gun off of your hip and go confirm that the gun on your hip is yours. But most people, including myself, do not go around with a registration paper or any type of bill of sale or proof of purchase of the firearm that's on their hip. They typically just walk around with their gun on their hip. Now, to confirm that the gun isn't stolen, they can take the gun off of your hip or take the gun out of the vehicle if it is within reach, and then they can go and try to run the serial number and make sure that the gun's not stolen. However, if you got a permit that says that you got a right to carry this gun, then more than likely that gun is going to be lined up with you, because nobody gets a concealed carry permit for a stolen gun. Some people do, but not too many people are going to do that stupid shit. So, again, you do not confirm or approve or in any way, shape, authorize the removal of your firearm, and you make sure that you tell them that you have all of this stuff documented. I have said before, where are they? Body cameras. Look, y'all, I got a bunch of these things, and you can get them off of Temu for like $34. It's the same ones that they rock. You got it. You can clip it on your clothes. You got the ability to. They got mounts on these things where you can actually mount it to the dashboard. You can record them in the car. It's got like 8 to 10 hours of record time. Very long battery life. You put a half gig or a 1 terabyte SD card into this bad boy. It can record all day long. And it's USB charged. So you can plug it up into your car. You can charge it off your cell phone. It works very well. It does little 5-minute frames, and it records the whole time. You can have a set where it only records when you move, when noise and video detection. You can have it record the full 24/7, so that anything that's being said and done is being documented. It's got night vision, so that if you're in a situation where there isn't proper lighting, you have the infrared where you can still see. It's just in black and white, and you can see what's going on in a dark situation, so that you don't have to worry about not getting your video footage. It's got spotlights on it, which allows you to be able to spot the and I don't even know if I can, because I can't remember the last time I turned this thing on. But if it's still got battery power, wait, that's not the power button, that's the power button. Look at that. About a month and a half ago, I charged this bad boy up. I turned it off, and now it is powering on. And I just charged it for the sake of charging it when I leave the house. And this is one of the ones that I put on the dog, but I just turned it on, and as you can see, that it's just sitting there with 100% power on it from before. So I actually could run this video camera right now, which is actually pretty nifty. It's got the ability. You've got your camera. It's got the function where you can start recording. You've got I wish I could show you, but the glare is not going to let you do it. It's got the ability to show the lights here that light up to show that the thing's recording, the little blue flashing light that I turned off. And the reason why I turned that off is because if you got it on your person and you're walking around, because they're so used to seeing law enforcement with these things, for all you guys that like to wander around with your cell phone and shove your cell phone in people's face, if you had one of these clipped to your clothes, they're not going to question why you got that. So if you got this, that's just in there. And I just threw it up there. because they have the ability. It has one of these little clip things, and you can clip it onto your clothes appropriately where it's not going to go anywhere. And you've got it on your body. You're not fucking with it. It's not flashing. There's no spotlights on it. Nobody's going to give a shit that you're wearing one of these things. And you will be able to record your entire engagement in a Walmart, in a library, in a courthouse, wherever the fuck you are. Nobody's going to question you about the fact that they may question you in a courthouse, but everywhere else that's not a government building, nobody's really going to question the fact that you got something on your body, because police officers have body cams all the time. Whether or not they're on or not is irrelevant. The fact that they have them, people are used to seeing them, so nobody's going to ask questions. But if you're walking around doing this, people are going to start bitching because they see you displaying the recording behavior. So if you've got that body camera on, and me, I actually got two or three of them, right? You got those body cameras on you. If you have to exit the vehicle, you can take your cell phone where you got one recording device, but you can actually have your body camera with the other recording device. And I'm going to tell you why that's important in just a second. But because you're able to record what's going on, you have audio and video outside the car. If you have a dash camera, I recommend that you get one. If you don't, you get the 360 one where you can point them at the side windows to show the behavior of people outside of your vehicle. Not because I really care about somebody stealing a car, because I care about somebody breaking into my car while I'm still in my car, talking about some don't move, freeze. So in case I act sporadically, if you want to understand why I discharge my firearm, look at the video. That's why I tell you get a dash camera. It shows you what's in front of you. If you get the 360 one, it shows you what's on the passenger side and driver's side. If you get the one that's got the audio in it, it shows conversations of the people, the disgruntled behavior, the reason why you didn't exit the vehicle. If you got the one that's got the rear camera on the license plate, it shows you their behavior behind the car, which shows other reasons as to why you didn't get out of the vehicle. And all of this leads to building your case, whether it's criminal or civil. So when you're telling them that you don't agree to that search, they take your firearm. I mean, you can let it go. Some lawyers won't represent it if it's not enough information, if it's not enough situations that they will feel comfortable with a guaranteed win. They're just not going to do it no matter how much you pester. So you may have to try to represent yourself if you believe that you have enough evidence, and that requires you doing a lot of research and doing a lot of digging, but it's doable. If there is enough information there to circumvent their qualified immunity because there is no reasonable behavior for what they're doing, then you've got you a case that's going to probably lead to a settlement. You'll be able to walk away from it, whether it's a lot or a little. Really depends on how much shit they do. And the more extreme they are, the more you're going to get. But you really have to be grossly deprived and treat it like garbage in order for you to get you a couple $1 million. Just remember, Rodney King had to get his ass whooped for a couple of hours to get the millions of dollars that he got. I'm not trying to break no bones or nothing like that so that I could get me a few $1 million. I am not Steve-O. So let's look at normal circumstances. If you're driving your vehicle, you're about to get pulled over. So outside of whether or not you have a firearm, you're about to get pulled over. Notice, women are lucky. If you are in a situation where you believe that you are potentially being followed by somebody that could not be a cop, that is in a vehicle that looks like a cop car, then you can refuse to stop or refrain from stopping it at night only when you're not in a well-lit area. However, during the daytime, you still got to kind of pull over. Now, this is why I'm talking about this, because anybody, if you are being pulled over, whether it's daytime or nighttime, while we have 911, which is what 99% of Americans use in the United States, there is an alternative, which is called 112. If you dial that number, it'll take you directly to dispatch, which is a worldwide emergency number that gets you straight to a local dispatch where you can talk to whoever answers the phone. Tell them that you're being followed by what looks like a police officer. You're not really sure what's going on. Confirm that it's legit. Now, while you're on the phone with dispatch, you don't have to pull over. You're confirming that it's legit. They're going to ask you what's the make and model of your vehicle, where you're located at. You're going to give them reasonable description of your vehicle and what area that you're in. And this dispatch call is evidence in your criminal case, because if they say, oh, he was trying to run. Well, no, I was trying to confirm that I was actually being followed by a real police officer. Legitimate. Okay. because you're only supposed to, as a man, because as women, you have to confirm for your own safety. But as a man, you're supposed to stop as soon as you see the blue lights and then just kind of wrestle the fake guy to the ground. But for everyone else, it's like, well, if it's not confirmed, then you don't have to stop. So for everybody universally, I like uniformity. So I'm just going to go ahead and say across the board, your best bet in that particular situation is confirm that you're being followed by a dispatch, but confirm with dispatch that you're being followed by a police officer, which will get them in contact with the police officer that is following you. Once you have them confirmed that the police officer is following you, you let them know that you're getting off if you're on the interstate, you're getting off at the nearest exit. If you're not on the interstate, you're going to pull over into a well-lit area off of the main road. And by letting dispatch know that, dispatch will let the cop that's following you know that, which means that you have declared you are not going to run. That gives you a few seconds to a couple of minutes to get to a reasonable spot. You cannot say, I'm going to pull over and keep driving. You literally have to reasonably, after you say that, find a lit area or a safe place to put yourself, so that when you pull over, that they get out and come to the car and you're able to deal with whatever bullshit that they're claiming that they're going to pull you over with. Now, in this situation, you got dispatch on the phone. Since one of the first thing I recommend you saying while you're immediately on the phone is that you have a concern for your safety. Dispatch will not disconnect the call until you confirm that everything is okay. So, the reason why I tell you this is that life hack: before you get off the phone with dispatch, tell dispatch you want a supervisor at your situation, whatever your situation is. They're going to send a supervisor. But as the officer's approaching the car, the officer's going to come up and talk to you about whatever. You're going to tell the officer while you're on the phone with dispatch, before dispatch gets off of the call, that you want a lawyer before you answer any questions. And that kind of shoots down every fucking thing they want to talk to you about, because since your Miranda rights gives you the right to remain silent, and you have a right to an attorney to answer any questions. If you don't have an attorney on speed dial, they have to provide you with an attorney before they can ask you questions, even if it is in a mediocre traffic stop. So if you ask them for a lawyer, you've got dispatch on the phone, you have asked for a lawyer, and the guy's still asking you questions, he is not legally allowed to ask you questions after you've asked for a lawyer. If you are allegedly suspect of committing a crime and you've asked for legal counsel, they have to provide you with legal counsel before they can continue questioning you on your investigation, on their investigation. You also are not required to participate in their investigation. You're only required to not lie to them to interfere with their investigation. So when they ask you questions, you tell them that you're not answering questions. You want a lawyer. You want their supervisor. And as far as you know, you haven't done anything wrong. So you're not answering any questions. You're only making declarative statements, and you're not making declarative statements that will answer a question. You will tell them if you're going to tell them where you came from, where you're going, and where you are right now, that dispels if you was committing a crime in the past, if you're about to commit a crime right now, or if you're headed to committing a crime in the future, which dispels suspicion of committing a crime. When you dispel suspicion of committing a crime, the only real thing that they're going to be investigating at this point is whether or not your vehicle is properly registered, which comes up on a license plate. And then the only other thing that they're going to is whatever moving violation that they claim that you did. If they claim that you performed a moving violation, then clearly, if you're accusing me of performing a moving violation, we're going to hash it out in court. I'm not going to hash it out here. If you are going to give me a verbal warning, you give me a verbal warning. If you're going to give me a written citation, you're going to give me a written citation. Either way it goes, you're going to resolve what you're going to resolve with me, and we're going to go on about our days. But I'm not going to hold a conversation with you about whatever it is that happened today. So if we're in a situation where you feel like I deserve a ticket, by all means, give me one. I'm not going to debate it with you. You give it to me. If you say I did something wrong, give me a ticket that shows that you believe that I did something wrong, unless you're going to give me a verbal warning and let me go. If you're going to do that, then we can go down this path, and then I'm going to take it to court and we'll debate it at the courthouse. But if you're not going to give me a warning and let me go for whatever reason, for whatever alleged thing that you think that I'm going to do, then I'm not going to sit here and have a whole conversation as to why you're pulling me over. You tell me why you pulled me over. You go and run the citation. You give me a citation. We're going to go about our day. Now, this is the thing that I kind of want to talk to everybody about, because we have the guy who got his windows busted out. You are not required to roll down your windows 100% of the way. There are some states that require you to lower your window at least 20 to 60%, typically enough for you and a police officer to pass documents back and forward. And the officer is not going to pass you the ticket itself. They're going to pass you the ticket on this giant metal box clipboard thing. And that means that your window has to be open wide enough for them to shove that into your window. However, it only needs to be open wide enough for that to be shoved through the window during the time that they're trying to shove that through the window. Before that, before they have decided to write the ticket, before they have come to your car with the clipboard to write the ticket, you don't only need to have the window open enough for you to hear them and for them to hear you, unless you have tinted windows. So if you have tinted windows, you have to lower the windows down enough for them to see you, to confirm that your face and the face on a driver's license are the same person, because they do have to confirm that while you might be the owner of the car, that you still have the valid privilege to drive, even though we have some people that are doing that sovereign nation thing, talking about I'm a traveler, I have the right to travel. Even if I don't have a valid ability to drive, I have a valid ability to travel, blah, blah, blah. If your license is suspended and your driving privileges have been suspended, under normal circumstances, your operating a motor vehicle privileges have been suspended. And under those circumstances, you can deal with some bullshit, whether you agree with how they do things or not, because the way they've been doing things traditionally for the past 100+ years is going to be the way they're going to do it, even though the country is changing to stop having our rights being so deprived. Now, additionally, you have to understand that if you choose not to roll that window down as far down as they ask you to roll it down, you're going to be dealing with the bullshit ass attitude from the officer, but you kind of got to deal with whatever it is that's going on. Now, you have this opportunity, because I know some cops try to be slick, which is why I told you earlier, pull over into an area where it is a safe space. You got, like, if it's at night, you're under a street lamp. If it's in the daytime, you're just off the main road. Because you're off the main road, they can approach the driver's side of the car. So if a cop decides to get out and go to the passenger side of the car and they're tapping on the glass, you shake your head. You got to come to this side. They're gonna insist that you roll down that window, but you have to understand that lawful orders are within the confines of the law, giving you instructions for their safety as well as yours, where they are not telling you to do something that is violating a law. Which is why that guy that the officer was ordering him to get out of the car for a search, that's the specifically get out the car for a search, to search the vehicle. That is not a lawful order, because they cannot lawfully search your vehicle without your consent or a warrant. And unless you are on probation or parole, where you have the obligation to participate in random vehicle searches, there is no reason for them to order you out of the car for a search. So that is not a lawful order. If they are just ordering you out of the car for their safety during a traffic stop, you can get out of the car for your safety, but they cannot order you out of the car for a search. That is against the law. So remember, lawful order, they can't give you orders for violating laws. Now, another thing is that when they tell you to roll down the window, rolling down the window is not a lawful order. You roll down the window on the driver's side to the 20%. So like the window, you roll it down where there's enough. You've got that little space there. That's about enough. You can hear them. They can hear you. I've been looking at some vehicles that got PA systems where you have the ability to not have to roll down your window at all and be able to communicate. You can hear them and they can hear you, and that's what the law requires. Now, in those situations, they're going to be pissed off. Oh, you got to roll down your window. No, sir, you're required to hear me and I'm required to hear you in order for you to do your job. So since you can hear me and I can hear you, then you're able to do your job. So the window not being down is not affected, but it's not affecting your ability to do your job, which means that you can't give me an instruction to do something that I'm not supposed to do. Speaking of instructions, keep in mind, I just want to say, when you're pulling over, most of us pull over, we put our car in park and take our foot off the brake because we're going to be here for a while. 2024, most people's cars have the standard function where when you put the car in park, it unlocks all of the doors in the interest of your safety. I would recommend that you go through the motion of reprogramming your car locks in your dashboard, because there are settings in your dashboard, if you have automatic locks, where you can disengage certain functions, where certain doors, if not all doors, will not automatically lock when you put the car in park or when you turn the car off. Because sometimes it unlocks the doors when you put the car in park. Sometimes it unlocks the cars when you take the key out of the ignition, where law enforcement sometimes does this. They'll tell you, oh, turn the car off, oh, take the key out of the ignition. And the reason why they tell you that is because it gives them the ability to invade your vehicle. It's not for their safety, because they're standing beside the car. So it's not for their safety. So again, that's not a lawful order. Turn the car off, it's not a lawful order. Turn the car off is a lawful order if your car is rolling. Turn the car off is a lawful order if you're trying to run them over, but you pulled over, you stopped within reason, you've taken your foot off the brake, the car's not moving. Turn the car off is not a lawful order. Now, reason why I tell you this, put the car in neutral, pull your emergency brake up. The vehicle is now locked in place, but it's in neutral. The doors will not disengage. And in case of an emergency, you can always unlock the emergency brake, hit the car into any gear, and take off. So never turn your car off. They're going to tell you turn the car off. You're going to tell them that's not a lawful order, and don't turn your car off. Don't turn your car off. In some states where the weather is bad, you're going to have the privilege of them not telling you to do that, because it's going to jeopardize your safety because it's cold outside. They got to deal with that. Another thing that I want to tell you is that if you got like hazard lights on, those of you that got like ground effects lights on your vehicles, if they're pulling you over for that, if you've got like LED strobe lights in your car or something to that effect, and they decide to tell you, oh, turn that off. Any lighting in or around your vehicle to be on or off does not interfere with their investigation, so you do not have the obligation to turn that off. So it is not a lawful order for them to tell you to turn off any lighting that you have on or around your vehicle, especially if it's off-road lighting that you have engaged after all four vehicles have gotten off the main road, which is another reason why I told you guys to make it to that safe space so that you don't have to deal with that shit. Now, none of this is getting down to when they start beating everybody ass and traffic stops and everything. But when we make our way through what they can and cannot tell you to do, like for example, they can tell you they can't tell you to put your cigarette out, but you're going to do it. But what they are going to also do is, because you smoking something in the car, they're going to say that they smell weed, which gives them the lawful right to search your vehicle. So it is always clear to not smoke in your vehicle. And I mean, it just saves you bullshit. But I know smokers smoke in their vehicles. You got ashes in your ashtray. They see ashes. Oh, I smell weed. I see residue in the ashtray. It's ashes from cigarettes, but gives them the reason to search the whole car and either find something or plant something. So don't smoke in your car. I just recommend that you just don't do it. Those of you who drink, don't leave open containers in your vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's a soda. It doesn't matter if it's a beer bottle or a beer can or a wine bottle. Don't. If you've got alcohol, put it in your, specifically, I would put it in a sealed bag in the back seat. But if you're not going to put it in a sealed bag in the back seat, you're going to put it in your trunk, because they can't search the trunk without a warrant. Okay. Now, beyond that, when you're in the situation where they're telling you to do this and do that and do the other, you're going to show that you reserve the right to comply with any reasonable order. And when they're asking you to do stuff that's unreasonable because it does not interfere with their investigation, you make it clear to them that I'm not liable, I'm not obligated to do that because that does not affect your investigation. And because it doesn't affect your investigation, it does not qualify as a lawful order. And, you know, some officers are going to say, oh, you got to do what I tell you to do, or you're going to get an obstruction. And you got to remind them, look, unlawful arrest is a highly profitable lawsuit. So, I mean, if you're going to take me to jail because you're trying to assert your authority, then by all means, you can speed that process up and take me to jail, because the quicker I get there, the quicker the clock starts with the amount of money I get paid. So take me to jail. But for those of you that really want to get home, you got stuff to do, you want to go to work, you're going to cow tip to whatever the officer says because you don't want to go to jail and interrupt the rest of your weekend. Me, myself, sometimes just got time to deal with the bullshit, because if you stand your ground, they are not going to fuck with you as much as you think. As long as you mind your business, though. If you one of them shit starters like the First Amendment guys that's running around pissing off police officers, then yeah, you're going to have a harder way to go in life. And you can become an activist like that because you're going to have a harder way to go in life. And because they're pissed off at you because you fuck with them on a regular basis, they're going to start making a point to come and fuck with you on a regular basis. So they're going to give you a bad time to the best of their ability. And while it's going to annoy you, you're not going to actually have enough grounds a lot of the times to be able to sue them for their behavior, or their behavior is going to be too insignificant for a court to recognize it as a valid, high-paying lawsuit, and they're going to dismiss the claim. And that's going to waste your time. But each time that you spend half your life battling civil cases because you're fighting for your rights, it's exhausting. So what you got to understand is that you don't have to roll down your windows all the way, but you do have to roll them down enough for them to hear you, unless you got one of them PA systems where you can hear them and they can hear you. If they can hear you and you can acknowledge them, then all you have to do is just communicate with them and you don't got to roll those windows down. When it comes down to issuing your identification, I know we've been talking about this. I've seen it and heard it in a lot of different places, is that you actually don't have to give them your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. And when I say you don't have to give it to them, you don't have to hand it to them. If you want to hand it to them, you can. That's an option, but it is not a requirement to hand it to them. So here's the thing. The law requires you to present it to them, which means that if they ask for it, upon request, you're supposed to show it to them. Show it to them. Which means they have to be able to read the document, where they can then write down any pertinent information off of that document. I know most of us have our insurance card on our cell phone because we have apps with digital insurance, but it is a smart move to take time out of your week and print out a valid copy of your insurance card so that you can have a physical copy that you can press up against the glass with your driver's license and your registration to show that your vehicle is properly registered, your vehicle is properly insured, and your driver's license is not expired. They can write down all the information that they can write down. And the one question that they have been taught to ask, because these guys are conditioned like machines. So the one question they're going to ask you is the address is correct on your information? Look, I don't answer questions without my lawyer present, and you haven't gotten my lawyer yet. I asked for the lawyer when you walked up, and I'm still asking for the lawyer. I'm still asking for the supervisor, and neither one of them has showed up. So your line of questioning, no matter how insignificant, cannot begin until a lawyer has showed up at the scene. You can do whatever process that you want to do for your investigation, issue whatever citations you feel are necessary, make any arrests that you feel are necessary, but you are not legally authorized to ask any questions after I've requested a lawyer. So I can make declarative statements all day long. I'm not going to make any declarative statements that are going to answer any questions because I asked for a lawyer, and once I've exercised my right to an attorney, you must administer the attorney before you continue your line of questioning. So much as, are you okay? You can't ask me shit. You gotta, if I don't volunteer information, then you can't ask me for it because I asked for a lawyer. So really and truly, upon a traffic stop, the first two things that you need to say when you roll down your window is, I want a lawyer and I want your supervisor. Like, that's like the first two things you want to throw out there. I want a lawyer and I want your supervisor. And they at least got to get the supervisor, even if they don't get the lawyer. But when they start asking you questions, how you doing today? I asked you for a lawyer. So until you get me a lawyer, your line of questioning cannot begin. Oh, well, I pulled you over. Well, sir, you are violating my right to an attorney for any questionings that you may have. So, I mean, if you want to tell me what you want and then do what you need to do, we can work that out. But if you want to know anything from me, you must provide me with an attorney first. And you have not provided me with an attorney. That's what their police station is for, so that if they feel like you've done something wrong, they can bring you down to the police station and ask you all the questions that they want to question you. Any type of suspicion situation, they have this law where they can detain you for 72 hours and ask you whatever the fuck they want. They can pick you up today and start asking you questions in 2 days. So if they're talking to you on the side of the road, talking to you in an open parking lot, it's like, you don't have to entertain that conversation because you asked for a lawyer. Your right to an attorney does not start after you've been arrested. Your right to an attorney starts when the cop engages you. So since we know that, the first thing we need to start talking about is, as soon as you crack that window open, is I would like for you to bring a supervisor and also provide me with a lawyer. And remember I told you at the beginning of this was that before you get pulled over, if you dialed 112, you start talking to dispatch. Dispatch understands that you're being pulled over. You're concerned for your safety. And then they hear this guy talking to you, and you're saying that you want a lawyer and his supervisor at the scene. Dispatch, because 112 is not the local law enforcement, it nationwide kind of situation, they may not send you his direct supervisor. They may just send you a supervisor on duty that is nearby your situation, and supervisor is on his way will be what the dispatch says. And if there's nothing else that the supervisor can deal with, make sure that you notate on this call that I have asked for a lawyer. The officer is continuing to ask me questions, violating my rights, and is not acknowledged. It has not declared a reasonable suspicion of any kind, and is not willing to comply with my demands for a supervisor. And then when they, we're going to notate that, and then they end the call, you document your time and date of engagement. You can then actually file a record request, public record request from that police department when he issues you your ticket or whatever, and you can go and get that public record request. And when you get that public record request, you can get that audio file, which means, because when they issue your citation, if you're not going to just pay it right away because you know that you were wrong, you can issue that citation, and then you can use that as evidence in your case, depending on what you're being accused of and what's on that recording. Get the audio file. Now, in addition to that, if you've got recording, this is one of the reasons why I told you, well, if you've got the body cam and you got your cell phone, if you needed to use your cell phone to get your insurance card, if you've got your body cam going, you stop the recording on your cell phone, you still are recording with your body cam. If you had to call 112 or 911 or 119 or whatever you decided to call to get an emergency number, any emergency number that you dial, if you have to stop recording to use your cell phone to make a call, you still got the body camera recording. So even if you have to exit the vehicle, if you have to use your cell phone for something other than recording the engagement, you still have a body camera on that is recording the engagement. When it comes down to recording the engagement, while we do have that First Amendment right to actually record a video or audio file, it has been determined in most recent times that a judge has determined that live streaming is considered telecommunication. So if you are doing something where it says live across your screen, they can see that it says live recording, then you are live streaming. They can tell you to turn that off, because that's considered making a phone call, calling for backup, calling for help. Dizzles. You find a way to set it up where it doesn't say live across the top of your screen. You can live stream because they can't determine whether or not you're live streaming or not unless they see that word live across the top of your screen. Most social media apps show the live button to tell you that you are live so that you know that you're streaming. But the interesting part about it is that law enforcement starts to catch on that if they see that live thing across the top of the screen, they say, hey, are you streaming that? You can't lie to them. Yeah, I'm streaming that. Well, you're going to have to turn that off. Oh, I've got the right to record. You do. You have the right to record, but you do not have the right to live stream. That is considered telecommunications. So turn that shit off, start up a recording. Then you're good to go. So I say have the body camera on because with your body camera, with the camera from the dash cam and the camera, all of this stuff is evidence. If something happens where, you know, the situation gets aggressive, somebody gets hurt, bullets are everywhere, your body cam video, the dash cam video, the police officer's dash cam video, the police officer's body cam video, the dispatch call, all of these things are going to build the evidence either for or against your situation. If you're in the right and these officers are acting completely irrational, and you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself, and now you're on the 6 o'clock news because you had to drop 2 of them because they just unloaded on your vehicle. You had to drop 2 of them, and the third one caught you, and now you're under arrest. You're going to jail for self-defense. It is only going to be determined reasonably self-defense if you have the 911 dispatch call, you've got your body cam, his body cam, your dash cam, his dash cam, and his behavior being unreasonable and unacceptable. So say for example, you do have a firearm in the car and you're that guy where the one officer starts trying to break the glass. They start trying to break the glass. Somebody whips out a gun. They start shooting at the car. You throw it in gear because remember, you didn't turn the car off. You just throw it in drive and stomp on the gas and drop the brake and take off. Situation happens where if you end up stopping the vehicle at any point in time and you decide to return fire, they were trying to murder you first. You're trying to stay alive. You wasn't planning on this happening. If you survive that engagement and you end up in a courtroom, they're going to be looking at the fact that their police officers were being unreasonable. It was abuse of authority. They were unlawfully using their firearms. They endangered your safety. You were trying to protect yourself. The situation got out of control. You had to hurt some people to keep yourself alive. And you managed to successfully keep yourself alive because you're in an orange jumpsuit or a green jumpsuit or a black and white jumpsuit, whatever city, state that you're in when you're going before a judge saying, you know, I didn't ask for this. Then you're going to be looking at a whole nother scenario where, you know, they're going to be really looking at your case from a different window than what they would be looking at it if it was just your word versus theirs. So it's always a good way to pay attention to how you address your traffic situations by making sure that you follow all of these steps. Contact dispatch, confirm that the police officer behind you is legitimate, notify the police officer upon contact that you want a lawyer and you want the supervisor present during the engagement. Don't answer any questions, only make declarative statements, show them your information, don't give them shit, don't hand it to them, show it to them. Only roll down the window enough for you to hear them. Turn off your music if you have on music so that you can hear them. Only talk to them from the driver's side of the car. So this is another reason why I tell you, if you go to a safe space, you don't have to have them talk to you from the passenger side of the car because the driver's side of the car is dangerous. You pull your car so far off the road that it will not endanger their safety to walk up on the driver's side of the car. So if they walk up on the passenger side of the car, you're going to come over here. They're going to say, no, roll down this window. No, you come over here because roll down this window over here is not a lawful order. I roll down this window where I can hear you. You can't lie to them, tell them that that window over there doesn't work. But what you can do is you can tell them, I'm not rolling down that window. I roll down this window. You can come talk to me over here. And then, you know, they're going to have to walk around the car. They're going to be, when you don't do everything that they tell you to do, when they tell you to do something, they're going to be pissy about it. You just got to understand that. So the more you instruct them, the more that you order them around, the more aggressive they're going to be. So you really want to make sure that you are not yelling, and that you do not have a level of frustration in your voice, no matter how frustrated you are in the situation, because the more calm that you remain, the less abrasive the situation is for you. I have seen some situations where I've had to have conversations with law enforcement officers where they come in numbers, and I tell you, being a Second Amendment individual myself, I tell you, the conversation is different when you're standing there talking to them. Everybody's wearing body armor, or I'm wearing body armor, and they forgot their body armor for some reason. They came to work without their body armor, and you know, I've got a quick draw speed holster on my hip, and they got theirs locked in a secured holster. You know, the conversation is way different, because the 1.5 seconds it takes for me to draw mine, and the 3 to 5 seconds it takes for you to draw yours, both of you could get dropped at the time it takes for you to draw yours. And I typically stand in a position where they're both in line with shots. And they try to position themselves far enough apart where if you get one, you can't get them both. And it's like, nah, I need you both where I can see you. You both need to stand where I can see you. And those discussions happen a little less aggressively, but also there's an equalizer there, because if I'm going down, I'm taking at least one of you with me, and I only do throat shots. So you can understand how that's going to suck. Blow your neck out. You got no Adam's apple now. Your jaw hanging loose. It's an ugly situation. It's like, you're not even sipping through a straw. You don't even have a bottom face line now. It's like, it's an ugly situation. But the conversations are different. And my conversations, and I'm gonna tell you this, like, and the reason why I'm gonna tell you these kind of stories is because you have to recognize that if you submit 100% to the recognition of the violation of your rights, you will end up in a position where you have a reasonable right to sue, which gives you a reasonable right to get paid, which gives you a reasonable quantity of money for the shit that you went through. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it better, and it's not going to stop it from happening a second time. You just get a bunch of non-taxable income off of being mistreated by law enforcement. Typically, the people encourage that type of scenario, but think about how tax dollars going into unjustified behavior, and it's really actually legitimizing and justifying the behavior, because the officer doesn't always get terminated for their behavior. And when police officers get discharged from a specific police department, they can always be rehired in another police department. So it's not like they're not going to be cops anymore. They can go from being the local sheriff to being a county cop. They could go from this state to working in another state. You know, so it's not like if they get shut down here, that they will be blacklisted as a cop. And then on top of that, if they are an ex-cop, they can now be mall security. So they can still be pistol whipping you in a parking lot because they're working for Walmart now. Walmart's got AR-15s in their stores in California. You just got to understand that these people will find a way to work while holding a gun. So I don't always condone that behavior, but you have to analyze your situation and remember that your safety and your life comes first, and you don't want to go to jail, but if you have to, you will, and you have to stand up for your rights, and you have to stand up for your safety. So I have riot gloves. And what those riot gloves do? Well, when we're having a conversation, I'm outside of the car, you're outside of the car too. I have riot gloves in my pocket. Riot gloves are full tactical gloves. they're really good with keeping your fingers warm, which works if you're in a cold climate. It's a good excuse. Putting them on because my hands are cold. But I'm putting them on because we're about to get physical. You start talking about going to jail, I start putting on my gloves. Just like when they decide that they're gonna arrest you, that means they're gonna go hands-on, which means they're gonna grab those nifty Teflon latex gloves from Trojan. They're gonna put those gloves on because they're gonna go hands-on. Well, while they're putting their latex gloves on, I'm putting my tactical gloves on because if you're going hands-on, I'm going hands-on too. I have no problem with going to jail. It's just we got the skin color and the credit score where it ain't been the first time, it won't be the last. We are going to, if it's going down today, it's going down in the worst way. So they have tactical gloves out there for that. You can punch a hole through a window. So you already know what's going to happen between you and a cop. It's like, don't hold back. Now, I'm not going to encourage anybody to get into an altercation with a police officer because those always end badly. They've got mace, they've got stun guns, they've got tasers. I recommend that you go, it's a $500,000 truck, but there's a truck out there that was made in 2020 that if you could afford to go buy it, it electrocutes the fuck out of them when they decide to touch the door. I would buy that truck. Probably the only vehicle next to the Tesla Cybertruck that is not a waste of money. Because if you got a bulletproof vehicle, they can't shoot out the glass. They can't break into the vehicle. You exit when you get ready. Kind of the way it is. The difference is that with the Cybertruck, they can blow it up with a grenade, but the other vehicle, not so much so. So I typically encourage people to go ahead and, look at their options, look at your city and states. You also want to try to make sure that you have all of your shit in order. And you want to maintain composure and you want to keep things calm and keep things civil. But you understand that the right to comply with their instructions requires you yourself to understand what a lawful order is. If you are not sure if it is a lawful order, you should probably do it, because if you don't, then you could end up going to jail. But if you are positive that this is not a lawful order, where they are giving you an instruction for their safety, your safety, and their ability to investigate the reason for suspicion, if you cannot confirm that it is not a lawful order, they're going to make you do all kinds of shit. If you're smoking and tell you to stop smoking, that's not a lawful order. But you'll stop smoking because they told you to. Because they believe that a lawful order is whatever they tell you to do, that you're supposed to do it. That's a lawful order. That's not true. They're supposed to give you instructions within reason that are supposed to take into account your safety. If it is not taken into account your safety, it is not a lawful order. Their safety comes before your safety. So if their instructions does not improve their safety, it's not a lawful order. Demanding that you get out of a car that was once moving, that is no longer moving because of their involvement, that is the only lawful order that they can basically give you. Besides, if your window is closed and they can't hear you, roll down the window enough for them to hear you. Likewise, if you have music on and they can't hear you, they can't communicate with you, turn the music off so that they can hear you. Lawful orders, because they're giving you instructions so that they can perform their job duties in a safe fashion. If they're not giving you instructions that are going, like, turn off your lights, that's not going to interfere with your ability to do your job. So I'm not doing that. They tell you turn off your car, it's not interfering with your ability to do your job. So I'm not doing that. If they draw their firearm, your supervisor was supposed to be on his way already. So we'll wait till he gets here, and then we'll work on your behavior, your attitude. And then make sure every time you're in a negative situation with the officer that you've engaged, that step one, you file a police report, you file a complaint with the local department with their internal affairs, and then after you file a complaint with their local internal affairs, then you try to see what you can do about evaluating your options with potentially civil action. Typically, you want to get back the report, because one of the things that you need in civil action when law enforcement violates your rights is the ability to dispel qualified immunity, and qualified immunity comes from their ability to prove that they violated certain laws within reason, that were not violating your constitutional rights, where their actions and or efforts were within good faith efforts to enforce and uphold the law. Now, if their behavior was not enforcing and upholding the law, it was violating your constitutional and civil rights, and is not considered covered by qualified immunity, especially if they're not complying with their own company's policies and procedures, then qualified immunity is gone. And when qualified immunity is gone, they no longer have immunity from civil action. And if they no longer have immunity from civil action, then you can sue the fuck out of them. And typically what their union rep is going to put them in a position where they're probably going to settle out of court. And then if they settle out of court, then it don't matter if you get $1,000 or $1 million, they settle out of court. The cop is paying for that. If you sue the cop and the police department's paying for that. But if you specifically sue the cop is paying for that. So you typically two or three party scenario, because any employee of a company, the company is responsible for the actions of the employee when the employee is in active duty of the company. So if you sue the police officer and you sue the police department will settle on behalf of the police officer. But if you sue the police officer themselves, you could get a judgment in your favor that could probably break the bank of the police officer. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get any money out of the fact, but you could definitely put that cop under a bankruptcy style situation where like shit tons of, and you would have to torment the fuck out of them in a legal court by winning the case, then filing another claim to get to collect on your civil action. And it's going to cost you more than what you're going to get from it, but it will give you peace of mind that you stuck it to the man one time. And this is one of the things that we have to sit here and think about on a regular basis. Like, do we really want to push all of these areas off the table and really fight like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and really fight for the rights to get to drive down the street and not get, pulled over for bullshit? Some people say no, some people say yes. It's unfortunate that we only have activists like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and Huey P. Newton and Malcolm X that we can utilize as references towards, the injustices that happen in this country. Because we haven't had anybody who didn't have a really good tan get their ass kicked because they thought that law enforcement wasn't acting right. But if you want to march that march, you can march that march. And that's one of the reasons why I thought it would be a good idea to do the show today about this, because we have had the shit's getting deep. One of the things I actually wanted to talk about real quick that is similar to your rights in your vehicle is that your rights as a pedestrian, you're not required to identify yourself unless you're accused of a crime. So they ask you for your identity because they walked up on you. The stop and frisk law requires them to stop you for being suspicious of committing a crime. So they can't just stop you because you're walking down the street and ask you for your ID. You have to look like you are about to or just finished committing a crime. And if you didn't, you're not required to identify yourself. There are some states in the country that do require you to identify yourself to them to some degree. So in those states, check your local laws for everything I've told you today. In those states, your ability to tell them who you are does not require you to go into your pocket and hand them your ID. They're going to ask you for your ID. You don't have to give it to them. You can tell them whatever you want to tell them about who you are and reasonable identification. So they're going to ask you for your name and you're going to give it to them. They're going to ask you for your social security number. That's not relevant because that's a financial identification situation. It's not for criminal action. They're going to ask you for an address. You're not going to, you don't necessarily have to provide the address because the law requires you to identify yourself, not where you live. They're going to ask you for a phone number. Law requires you to identify yourself, not where you live. If you go so far as to state your full name and your social security number, you're not required to do all of that. But if you stated your full name and say, well, you asked me who I am, you asked me to identify myself, my name is so-and-so, my name is John Doe, you asked me to identify myself, that's my identity. That's it. Well, give me the rest of the information. I'm not required to give you any other information. I'm only supposed to tell you who I am. How do I know who you are? Well, I'm supposed to tell you who I am. I'm not, and who I am does not go so far as to how old I am, where do I live, like what do I do for work. That's not identifying myself. That's telling you about my life story. That's not identifying myself. So you got to know your rights. I'm not required to answer all of that. I'm only required to tell you who I am. And I told you who I am. So you can, if you put that in there, that's probably the best that you can do. And I know some people are going to say, well, you got to tell them what your date of birth is. And I do believe name and date of birth is sufficient enough to tell them that this is my name, and then it's a common name. This is my date of birth. There's only so many people in this area at this age with this name, which kind of minimizes it. But beyond name and date of birth, I'm not giving you shit because I didn't do that wrong. Now, in those states where you recognize that you are not required to identify yourself to the officers when they ask you who you are, especially if you haven't committed a crime, it's like, nah, I'm not telling you shit. Which means that you are in a position where they first have to convince you that you cannot prove that you haven't done a crime in order for you to have to identify yourself, because they're only identifying the suspect of the crime. So if you are a witness of the crime, but you are not a cooperating witness, you don't have to identify yourself. Yeah, I saw what happened. Oh, well, you need to tell me who you are so that we can include your information in the report. No. You got all the information that you need. No, I am not participating in your investigation. So no. Oh, we may have to come and get your information, get your whatever you got as evidence. That's fine. Get a warrant. Oh, you got to tell me who you are. No, because I didn't commit a crime. You're not investigating me. You're investigating that. I might be a witness to what just happened, but I am not part of your investigation. You're not investigating the witness. You're investigating the suspect. The witness is on the same side as the investigator. So I don't have to tell you nothing. You have to figure out who did it and why they did it. But I am not required to testify. So I thought this was very interesting. And beyond that, the other thing is that if you have those, I think I told you guys before about your rights around your house. And I'm going to be talking about that when we start talking about protecting your house. So before I go into that today, I was gonna put a pin in today's topics, because I think that it is very entertaining for us to be able to cover all of these bases and get a clear understanding of what we're doing when we're out and about and we're trying to live our lives. And it's always smart to remember that when we are trying to do the right thing to the best of our abilities, that we make sure that we look at those laws, we accept the consequences of our actions before we perform the action, and we stand on what we believe in by any means necessary, which means that if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But if you feel like this is the way you need to do it, stick with it regardless of the consequences, because if you fold, if you compromise in your ethics, if you compromise on your values, if you compromise on your beliefs for the sake of somebody else's oppression, you will never be any level of free. You will only be as free as the person that is allowing you to be free based on their oppression in that moment. So at least here in the United States, where this is supposed to be the freest country in the world, I can't say that works as well in other countries, but here in the United States, where this is supposed to be the freest country in the world, you are not supposed to be in a situation where your constitutional rights, your civil liberties are being violated by somebody else, whether they're in an authority position or not. And you should maintain the ability to know what you have the right to do, know what you do not have the right to do, know what the consequences are for doing things that you have no right to do. And if you're willing to accept those consequences, do whatever you want to do. Just make sure that if you get caught doing something that you're not supposed to do, they will throw the book at you. They will put you under the jail and plant daisies on top of it. It is serious. So if you're going to stand on principle and exercise your right to be free and exercise your right to do things that people don't want you to do because you have the right to do that, whether or not you should do it, it doesn't matter. The fact that you have the right to do that and that's going to be your lifestyle, you need to make sure that you know what you cannot do before you start doing it, so that when you start taking actions, nobody can stop you. You're not tiptoeing on eggshells because you don't want them to catch you and arrest you for it. You want to make sure that you are with pride doing whatever it is that you got to do. And as long as you are with pride doing whatever it is that you got to do, they're not asking any questions. They're not really pushing too many envelopes. And there's going to be a situation here and there where somebody's going to test the waters. You ain't from around these here parts. They just want to get your information, and they're gonna push the envelope. And you might let them from time to time because you got better things to do. But make sure that whenever your rights are being violated, that you take the opportunity to take whatever legal action is available and do the best that you can to push that issue to the fullest extent of the law. And go build a habit. These days, most states actually have a civil code where law enforcement is required to identify themselves upon request. They're supposed to identify themselves upon engagement. So the first thing that they're supposed to say when they walk up is, my name is so-and-so, badge number so-and-so, for the such and such police department or sheriff's department, whatever. I'm here because reasonable articulable suspicion. Can you identify yourself for me? Name, ID, car insurance, registration, all of those stuff in that order, because they got to tell you who they work for, where their jurisdiction is. Because if you're not in their jurisdiction, they got to get somebody that's in their in your jurisdiction. They got to identify themselves for your records. You need to be documenting this so that you can identify them for your records. And if the situation goes south, you know who you're suing. So you got to remember all these things. All these things have to be remembered, have to be restated, have to be reminded. So first thing that they're talking, when they walk up to the car and they start talking shit without that proper introduction, hey, what's your name and badge number? I'm going to need to talk to your supervisor and I want a lawyer before I answer any and all questions. That just squashed the whole situation. It don't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter what you did, what they say you did. I need your name and badge number. I need to talk to your supervisor, and I'm required to have, I am requesting a lawyer to be present before I answer any and all questions that you have to ask. And if that is the beginning of your conversation to them, they can't ask you any more questions. Now, that doesn't stop them from writing you a ticket. They just have to explain to you, I pulled you over for this reason. I'm issuing you this ticket. I need to see, which means that I don't have to touch it. I gotta see it. I gotta read the information on it so I know who I'm issuing a ticket to. And this is the because everything else is on a license plate. Vehicle make and model is on the license plate, unless the license plate is stolen. So they didn't pull you over for that. They're pulling you over because of whatever operation your car did. And then you're gonna take the citation and then you're gonna go on about your day. So they don't need to really ask you your questions. What you coming from? How's your day been? Where are you headed? If you are contemplating giving me any kind of a verbal warning, it's best that you just give me the verbal warning. Tell me, tighten it up and let me go. But if you are issuing me a citation, it is in your best interest to just issue me the citation, because we are not having any further conversation. I asked you for a supervisor and I asked you for a lawyer. And the only two things that are going to come to this vehicle before you start asking me questions is a lawyer is going to come before I answer questions, and your supervisor is going to come before we continue our engagement. Now, I am required to comply with your investigation so I can show you my driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. You're not touching anything. I'm not handing it to you. You're just going to get to see it. And then whatever you decide to do with that information after that is all that you're going to get. And after that, they have to decide, are they going to cooperate issue a citation, let you go, recognize that you're being respectful, even though you're standing your ground and you're telling them what you will and will not do, or if you're going to get hostile and get aggressive. I got to tell you, it is not going to end well in the court if you have to battle it out with this officer in the street. But what you also have to understand is that you got to protect yourself. You cannot let them beat you to death or halfway to death because you believe that they're going to give you millions of dollars, because you have to survive your encounter in order to take them to court. So with that being said, every decision that you make, whether it is a violent decision or a non-violent decision, whether it's an aggressive response or a non-aggressive response, you have to survive your engagement with them in order for you to take them to court. Okay? You don't have to survive in order for them to take action on you. You have to survive in order for you to take legal action on them. With that being said, I want to put a pin in tonight's show. I really appreciate y'all coming to the show tonight. Thank you very much. I'm going to start by signing out of TikTok first. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. And for the rest of y'all coming in, I appreciate y'all showing up from TikTok, Twitch. I seen you, Red Void. You've been here showing us a lot of love. It's always a pleasure to have you around. Oh, wow. JD Sai was here for about 49 minutes. I really appreciate that as well. You guys are doing a good job of showing us support, building up the followership. It is a great thing. Man, I'm going to end up diving into and tiptoeing around some affiliate sponsorship. So I'm going to have to do some back office videos. Y'all going to see me doing some wild stuff when I start seeing some branded contracts. Hey, whatever pays the bills, right? It's going to be appropriate, and it's going to be stuff that I'm going to support. I'm not going to have situations where I don't believe in it, but I'm going to promote it because I don't think that's a good thing. So if you guys see something on the podcast that I've put up there, any affiliate products or our This and That merchandise, it's stuff that, you know, I'd fuck with it. Whatever it is, I fuck with it. So keep your eyes out for those things because we're going to have some new changes on our YouTube page. There's not much modification I can do with the Twitch page, but we do have a lot of merchandise up there on the Twitch page. And as we increase our membership on Twitch, which is why I encourage everybody to make sure that you follow us on Twitch, share us with some of your friends and family members on Twitch so that we can get a larger following. I think we need to get about 100 of y'all watching at the same time in order for us to get our partnership status. We got like 15,000 fans on YouTube, but we don't have that on Twitch. It's easy for us to stream off of TikTok. I just got to use two stream channels, which really hurts my computer, but fuck it. I'll buy another computer. It is what it is. Outside of that, yeah, it is great for you guys to be here tomorrow. We got another special show coming up. I try my best to do detailed research on detailed research topics and then enlighten you guys on just around the way. It's supposed to be common knowledge, but common knowledge isn't too common anymore. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of stuff as it pops up. And just remember that we've got all the way out to, I think, almost the 20th of October shows scheduled on YouTube. So it just tells you on Twitch that we have a live show 7 days a week at the same time of day, but it does not tell you what show is going to air. I prefer that you come every day of the week, but we have a 30-day listing up there already. So if you want to pick and choose which shows you want to come to, if you've got things that you got to do, and there's certain shows you don't want to miss, you can set your calendar. You can hit the notification button on YouTube, and then the YouTube will remind you that a show is going to air, and then you can be present for that show. I know they do at least 2 notifications, once 30 minutes before the show airs and once when the show airs. If you hit the notification button, it might remind you that day, earlier in that day, that show is pending to air. So you might get 3 notifications. But, you know, if you really want to be a part of one of the shows, I strongly recommend that you hit that notification button so that it slides you a reminder that show's coming up soon. Beyond that, yeah, I got nothing else for you guys. So I really appreciate y'all coming to the show today. Thank you for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sander, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you very much.